And the truth is, the internet doesn't buy records like that because they can download. You know, unless you have something special or you have a movement, you know, you're generating a buzz amongst an audience that for the most part doesn't buy records. So how does that help your financial bottom line, really, you know? That being said, as a fan, sometimes I appreciate hearing certain things early, or hearing an alternate version of a song, like having the Jay-Z version of the Rick Ross record, Jay-Z's verse on, I think it was a Maybach music, just like years later. That's cool, you know, because that record's done what it's gonna do, you know. But a record that I'm banking on being successful later on, that hasn't come out yet, and now it's coming out half finished. A, it's killing my bottom line, and B, people aren't getting my full artistic, you know, creation. So yeah, I don't know, that bothers me.
And it fucked up the sometimes sample clearance too.
Yeah, that's the other problem. Is that and I've been in this situation once or twice before. Let's say a record does leak out and it becomes a hit, right? And radio's killing it, and all DJs are spinning it, but the sample wasn't clear and it leaked and people started playing it. Now you have a hit. Now the sample clearance. Now the publisher is going to come back and be like, oh, that record's already popping. Y'all put this out already. You can't turn around and say, oh, I didn't put it out. It got leaked. They don't care. As far as they're concerned, a record containing material that they own a copyright to is out, and they're going to probably ask you for twice as much, if not everything. Because as far as they're concerned, you put out their material without their authorization. So they can very well come back and be like, oh, now that this material's out already, you want 100%. And you kind of have no choice but to give it to them, you know, because you are in violation.
I remember one time I saw an interview that you had, and you mentioned that making a connection with the audience for an artist. And what I wanted to know was, like, back in the 90s, you were mentioning like they had the album, but they had the singles, the videos that come out before. Nowadays, it's a lot different. How does that impact us, and how would we make that connection to the audience?
When you're talking about, like, you're asking me, like, how I feel about the way it used to be done versus now. I mean, they used to, I don't want to say they, the cliche they, but record labels and management companies in general used to work with artists a lot differently. You used to maybe get 3-4 singles. They might not even all have videos. You see, back then, you might have had, you know, cassette singles or vinyl singles. You might have 2 or 3 or 4 before the album even dropped. And out of those 3 or 4 singles, maybe 2 or 3 of them had videos to accompany them. But you would get that before you even got an album. You know, there was a bigger push to establish the artist at a grassroots level, you know, organically, and build it up. Whereas now it's just like, it all just resides on the only thing that matters now is your first week numbers. You know, you put your album out, if you don't sell X amount of money, X amount of records your first week, you're done. You know, you used to get 3 or 4 shots to build some awareness. I think it's unfortunate. I think if labels went back to that, like, this is the single, and we're going to work it for 3 months, and then we're going to deliver another single, work it for 3 months, and do that over the course of like a 9-month period, and then drop the album, they'd probably see better results than just leaking records. Because now it's like they roll dice. Because it doesn't cost them anything to send out an email blast. So it's like, okay, let's see if this works. All right, that didn't work. Let's see if this one works. Give it a week. All right, 2 days they play. All right, you know, it's much more of a roll of the dice on their end, and it doesn't really build any kind of traction for the artist. It's a crapshoot. It's unfortunate. That's the way it goes then. You know, we got to take. I would say either as artists. You know, the more we take back our marketing and our creative energy back into our own hands, I think the better off we'll be in that respect.
I had a 2-part question, but you already answered the first one. My second one is pretty much, I did what you pretty much said you should do and give a CD. Is it possible to hand one to you right now?
Fucking awesome.
It's kind of awkward, but I'll take it.
Cool, man.
But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Just hand it to me first, and then I'll hand it to him. No, I'm just kidding. I'll look at him in his eyes.
Any other questions? I want to take like 3 more. That's it. 1, 2.
Hey, just wondering, You mentioned you work with an engineer at your studio, and I was just wondering, as a producer, how much of your workflow is creative versus technical, and do you have training as an engineer, or does he kind of fill in the gaps for you?
Depends on what I'm working on. For me, my engineer is like an extension of myself.
You're a super techie guy, right?
Yeah, so it's like, I studied, I don't want to say studied engineering because I don't went to school for anything, but like coming up in the studio and turning in the studio for a number of years and just being like a technical kind of guy, I think one of the reasons why my music sonically has been as good as it has for the most part is because of my background in engineering. The fact that I understood engineering, I guess is a better way to put it. I always say the best producers can DJ and can engineer as well. And by engineer, I don't mean they can push play, hit record. I mean they understand sonics. They understand, how all the gear we use works, such as like the EQs, compressors, effects units. Just can understand the verbiage behind all this stuff. Like instead of just saying turn the bass up, they know that they may need to increase it a certain amount of dB at a certain hertz. And so, all that being said, my engineer understands my ear and understands the way that I like to hear things. So I can give him a certain direction, walk away, come back, and it'll be like 80% there. And then I can just tweak it to what I'm actually hearing in my head. It's a luxury that I have. It's not a die-hard, not a necessity for me because I can do it myself, but it makes my job a lot easier because I can focus and think about other things, without that, I would be way more behind schedule in life than I already am, So having Andy there is definitely an asset, because he sometimes knows what I want to do before I can tell him to do it, But that's what happens when you work with somebody that extensively for like 6-7 years.
Has he made any beats? Has he ghost made any beats that you want to tell us about?
No. I would say I've never, ever used a ghost producer. But you know what? Like it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about producers not necessarily having to touch instruments. You can produce a record and not having made the beat. That being said, this is hip hop. And for the past 25 years, for the most part, the producer has always been known as the person who made the beat. So if you're using a quote-unquote ghost producer or, somebody's actually making the beat and you're guiding the song itself, that person still needs to get something out of credit. So that being said, there are producers that I've worked with, they haven't ever necessarily made a beat in my name. I usually will make the beat, start the beat, and maybe give them a direction to expand upon. Or use them as if it's something that I can't play, they can play it. But I can't just.
So for example, because T.I. co-produced those joints, all those, it says like co-produced by T.I.
Oh, was that the skits?
Oh, the skits.
Yeah. What that was actually, there was a dude, I think his name was Cavi, I can't remember for sure. He had the basic skeletons for those skits musically. And then I kind of came in and helped reel them all in, added some things, and then arranged all of the talking, everything that was happening, the sound effects, and just kind of like scripted them. And then T.I. was one who had the overall vision of how he wanted them to sound. So that is a collaborative production, effort.
Right up.
Hi, sorry.
Hi.
As a producer, do you ever make it specifically just for the artist itself with the beats? Or is there a pattern that you do, say these beats didn't get bought by that certain artist you made it for? How do you circulate it to the rest of the artists without them fighting for it? Say like, have you ever had an issue where 2 artists want that same, like that one beat?
I've had that. It's been a long time since that's happened. So I don't really give out too many random beats like that. Usually, I gotta get paid before I even go in and do anything. And then whenever I make right there, God willing that it's good, it goes to that artist that paid me to be there. But then there was a situation once where I had did a record for from Puff, and then Buster ended up wanting it. What happened was, I did the record for Puff, I did it at Daddy's house, and I didn't hear from anybody from Bad Boy for a year and a half at all. Phone didn't ring, nothing. So I get the beat to Buster. I hadn't gotten paid for anything. I just went for a couple of days and made beats. And a year and a half later, I give the beat to Buster. And then one day I get a phone call from somebody at Bad Boy, like, yeah, we need such and such beat. I'm like, oh, that's gone. And it turned into this whole big deal.